Hello, my name is Cody and I'm here to talk to you about cameras today and the different brands of cameras, a nice cheeky little beginner's guide for whoever's watching this. So to start off with, camera brands we'll go nicely into. Canon, to start off with, they're known for their reliability, they're known for their wide range of cameras, their fantastic skin tones. They've got good battery life as well, which is really helpful, so you don't have to spend more money on extra batteries or a battery hand grip. However, on the con side of things, there's slower innovation, expensive mirrorless cameras. That's a bit of a difficult one, and they're best for portraits, weddings, and hybrids between photos and videos, as they've both got good settings. Moving on to Nikon, they're known for their image quality and ergonomics, quite nice hand feel. Their pros are industry leading sensor performance, so you want a great sensor, you go for Nikon. They've got very good lens quality and vintage options as well, which is very helpful for anyone that's sort of branching out into the older genre of photography. They've got good overall build quality as well, but the cons, the autofocus isn't as good as on Sony's or Canon's, on mirrorless cameras specifically, and they've got limited third-party lens support, as Nikon are known for the Z mount. They're best known for all sorts really, landscapes, wildlife, a lot of professional photographers use it. There's quite a lot really going on with Nikon, but that's quite good. Moving on to Sony. Sony, actually, I personally use Sony, and they have industry leading autofocus, which I can vouch for, is absolutely incredible. Watching this back on my live view, I can see it's tracking my eye consistently, which is just incredible, like, it's fantastic. But I must admit, it's got some cons. It's got a shorter battery life as compared to some of the other brands like Canon and Nikon. Some of their cameras are less ergonomic. They can be quite small in the hand and difficult to handle, but they have great low light performance. Sony's sensors are just incredible. Very sharp images, especially when you put them with prime lenses, which I'll talk about later. But they're best known for sports, wildlife, hybrid between photos and videos, as I'm using right now. Currently I'm actually recording this on the Sony a67, and that is a very good camera for photography and videography. Moving on to Fujifilm. Their film colour profiles and retro design is what they're absolutely known for. And I've seen firsthand that they are very nice, and they give quite a nostalgic feel to it. So talking about what their pros, they have unique film emulation, as I just spoke about. They're very compact and light. They've got some reasonable prices with some of their models. But their cons are they don't have any full frame. It's only APS-C and medium format, which they sell, and their autofocus isn't as fast as some of the other cameras, but depends what you're doing, it will still be alright. They also have limited third-party lens support, so unless you want to get an adapter and such, then you might struggle a little bit. But they are best for street photography, travel and creative photography. As I mentioned, they don't have fast autofocus, so anything a little bit slower or things like that will do perfectly fine. So moving on to the different types of cameras. I'll try and keep this as simple as possible because it is quite confusing, especially for me. DSLRs, the first sort of electrical cameras that came out, stands for digital single lens reflex, and they're normally used for professional photography, and they actually use a mirror mechanism to reflect the light into the viewfinder so you can see what you're looking at. They also have larger sensors for higher image quality, but then as I said earlier, it means larger files, so it's that trade. Moving on to some of the newer sort of types. We've got 360-degree cameras. That is mainly used for virtual reality, immersive photography and videography, and you can get all angle shots of that and you never actually miss the action. Quite a lot of camera types, from drones, then sort of touch onto phone cameras. They're obviously used for like everyday photos, social media as I mentioned earlier, and just pure convenience. On to my new personal favourite. that is mirrorless cameras. That is for hands-free photography, so you can just straight away. Also videography, they're quite good with. You can do social media content on them as they're quite small and capable. Then going on to wearable cameras such as these Meta Ray-Bans. They're for hands-free photography and videography. You can get lots of POV shots, as I will show you. Lots of social media content is very helpful for you. You can get a lot behind the scenes for whatever your job may be if you do a lot of social media for your job. They have built-in cameras for capturing moments from your perspective, not how the camera sees it, it's how you see it. And they're very light and wearable, so they're great for everyday use. Whether you're not recording, you can listen to music, you can receive texts and calls, and so on, and they're very useful. Right, moving on to the bit more of a difficult side with the essential components of a camera. This is where I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. But to start off with, we have ISO, which is the light sensitivity of the camera. So that determines how light it is, how light your scene is. So this determines how sensitive the camera is to light, as I just said. And if you go from a low ISO to, let's say, 100 to 200, that is best for bright conditions. If you're outside in the sun, it will keep it just right. Then going from high ISO, which is around 800 or more, it's going to give you brighter images but more noise, or grain as you might call it, which is, you would only really shoot in high ISO is if it's dark and you don't have lights, whereas I'm lucky enough to have lights, so I don't need to shoot at a high ISO. Moving on to aperture, which is depth of field, or DOF, depends on how you want to look at it, which means the size of the lens opening that controls the light intake and the depth of field, so how blurry the background is. So if you they're normally measured in f-stops, so it will be f/dot 1.8, f/dot 5.6, and so on. So if you have a higher ISO and a lower aperture, they're both going to give you much lighter images and videos. So you have more light, you have a blurry background, and you have a shallow depth of field, which is very good for portraits. Keeps the face nice and clear and visible, but the background behind is not as visible. It's nice and blurry, so that you focus on your main subject. If you go for a higher f-stop, it allows in less light. It has everything, the subject and the background, in focus, and that is much better for landscapes and such, really. Moving on to shutter speed, that is the capture of motion control. So that's how long the camera's shutter stays open, and that's measured in fractions of a second, which, yeah. So a slow shutter speed would be 1/10 seconds or longer, and that would blur motion, so you get light trails from cars, so brake lights would be blurred, and anything moving would be blurred if caught in the camera's capture. So that's for like waterfalls and things like that. If you want them to look nice and smooth rather than sharp, that would be what you'd want. You'd want 1/10 seconds or more. So for a fast shutter speed, it does the exact opposite, and that freezes motion. It would give you sports, wildlife, and it captures a sharp action shot versus a smooth light trail at night. So if I was running, then you'd want a much higher shutter speed, whereas if it was a low shutter speed, I would be blurred across the frame. So it depends really what you want and what your style is. Right, moving on to focus types, which there are quite a few ones, so hold on and I'll try and keep them as simple as possible, obviously. Manual focus, which is when you can adjust the focus lens manually using the lens. That's best for landscapes, macro, astrophotography, where precise control is needed a lot more. Then going on to single autofocus, which can come up as AFS or one shot AF. And that will focus when you press the shutter button halfway, and that's best for portraits and still subjects where the subject won't move and it won't change. So right now, if I was taking a portrait of me, bang, it would just pick up on my eye. That would be it, the one shot, job done. Moving on to continual autofocus, which is AFC or AI servo, as it may come up on yours. and that is when the camera automatically adjusts the focus as the subject moves, and that can help with tracking like this camera is. Otherwise it may pick up on the light behind me or my background and try and focus on a fly in the corner, which we don't want. So that is best for sports, wildlife, any kind of action photography where tracking is needed. So let's say you had a runner coming across the frame and they were doing their 100-meter sprint. That's when you would want AFC on. Right, that is it from me. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something. Just want to leave you with one last thing, and that is a quote put together by me and my good friend ChatGPT. And it goes, "Cameras are more than just tools to take pictures. They're a bridge between moments and memories, and they transform passion into purpose and storytelling into art." So that is it. I hope I have taught you something, and I'm hoping to see some of you out there taking pictures with whatever you've got, whatever you have, and whatever you will have soon. Please enjoy it, and I want to thank you very much. Bye bye.